Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Let's call our meeting to order right now. The 1st of December. And It's beginning to look a lot like winter. We'll end it there. All right, good afternoon. Welcome to everyone in our first meeting in the month of December 2015. Mayor Sims is not here today, so I'll be chairing the meeting today. So Councillor John Walsh, co-chair with me on planning, he will be bringing in the planning report. And I see one addition to the agenda. Anything else outside this one addition to planning? Nothing noted? All right then. Well, can I call for a motion to adopt the agenda as presented? Moved by Councillor Stoyles, seconded by Councillor Ledwell. Call to question. All those in favour? Aye. Contrary-minded? Motion is carried. All right. The minutes from November 17th of 2015. Motion to adopt the minutes. Moved by Councillor Walsh. Any errors or omissions? Errors or omissions from the meeting of November 17th? None noted. Let's call the question then. All those in favour? Aye. Contrary-minded? Motion is carried. And that brings us to business arising. Any business arising from the minutes of November 17th, 2015? If so, identify the individual item by its number, please, if you would. Sorry, let's backtrack. I missed it. No, I didn't. I thought I missed the safety message. We'll do that afterwards. Business arising. Anything, guys and gals, that come up from that? Nothing? Well, I'd like to just speak to item 751 there, the proposed municipal plan and development regulations amendment for 16 to 24 Glendale Avenue. I was absent for that particular meeting, and Councillor Walsh brought in this item from the Planning Committee. And I just wanted to state that I support wholeheartedly the recommendation and the outcome of that. I think it's a great development. We've done our due diligence in looking at all the issues that were raised, both through the public briefing session and the sessions afterwards. And as Councillor Walsh presented in the meeting at the time, the tomes of information that we had. So I support what Council decided on that day, and I'm glad that we're moving forward with that particular development. Okay, nothing else from the minutes? Councillor Tessier, did you want to? Okay.
Yes.
All right.
This just a little bit of information. 758, the Municipal Assessment Agency, their annual report. I guess related to it, anybody who filed appeals, I think should probably be hearing from. Some people should be hearing from the Municipal Assessment Agency now. I heard from somebody just this past week, and somebody has come by to their property because they did file an appeal. So I guess if somebody hasn't heard back yet, I guess a lot of it has to do with timing and when the appeal was filed, but they are, in fact, coming in now and paying some visits to properties.
Okay. Good stuff. Thank you. All right, Council, if there's no other business arising from the minutes, our next is proclamations and presentations. We have none for today. So that brings us to our regular safety message. And today, Councillor Ledwell is going to bring in our safety message.
Thank you, Your Worship. And of course, as you mentioned, the season of winter, dare I say, is it certainly looks like it's upon us out there. Not by the calendar, but it does look like it's upon us. There is some snow now on the ground, potentially ice on the roads. And of course, the safety message today is that snow very much means slow. I want to encourage everybody to drive according to the weather conditions, slow down when the weather is bad and the roads are slippery. Of course, should make every effort to have proper tires on your vehicle when you're driving. Make sure that you have functional and proper wipers on your vehicle so that your vision is not impeded by anything on your windshield. And basically just take it slow. That's the main message I want to ram home today. Drive according to the weather conditions and take it slow.
No, that's a good safety message. I know in the high school today, the administration got on and reminded the students of that, especially in parking lots. We got 10 or 15 kilometer zones. You got to slow down. We got almost 1,800 people sharing the parking lots up there, so it's a great message. It usually takes people a little while to get adjusted to the change in weather, and realize that just because it states 100 kilometers an hour or 60 kilometers an hour, that's the maximum under ideal weather conditions. So great safety message there, Councillor Ledwell, to adjust your driving according to the the winter conditions or the weather conditions. All right, so that brings us now then to, we have no, as I said, no correspondence to present, no proclamations or presentations. So that brings us to committee reports, and we'll start first of all with Corporate and Community Services Committee, and Councillor Ledwell is going to start the show for us today.
Thank you, Your Worship. We have a brief agenda, just 3 items. I'll do the first, and then I'll tag out to my tag team partner, Councillor Stoyles. The first item is our list of invoices for approval. You'll see there that we have 19 that we are tabling this evening. Some of the larger ones, of course, include our payment for water consumption for October of 2015, and we also have a number of progress payments and other things related to some of the road work that we had completed late this construction season in the fall. The total of the invoices for approval this evening total up to $2,611,318.12, and I so move.
Moved by Councillor Ledwell, seconded by Councillor Stoyles. Any comments or questions, Council, on any of the items in the 19 that are listed there? None? Okay, call the question. All those in favour?
Aye.
Contrary-minded? Motion is carried.
Turn it over to Councillor Stoyles.
Thank you very much. And of course, we have a couple of items, information items actually. And as we talked about winter and Christmas, our Santa Claus Parade is taking place this Saturday, and it's starting at 10 o'clock at the Mount Pearl Intermediate School, and it's going to run down Road Avenue, onto Park Avenue, and end up at the Mount Pearl Square. And of course, the Lions Club have done this for ever since I can remember.
I was going to ask, how many years is this? Anybody know what?
I don't think, we asked that a while ago and we were talking about it, and that's what we said, it's forever.
As long as I can remember,
Yeah,
and I'm
it's forever.
in my 40s. So.
And so,
Yeah.
so the thing, I mean, we want to certainly thank the Lions Club for all they do and all the work and everything that goes into it. And of course, they will be collecting food along the way. And if you have the young children who have letters from Santa, Canada Post will be out as well, collecting their letters and that. But I guess the big thank you is going to be to the Lions Club for all they do and put in. And I know Councillor Ludwell is a member of the Lions Club, and so many other people in the community. So we're so proud of our organisations here within the city.
Absolutely. And if I could just add that I was speaking with Gerald Coombs on this last week, and he asked if we could just remind the public that, you know, in addition to the food items, they also collect money along the way, toonies and loonies, that goes toward the food banks. I think the donation, he said, goes to the sort of the Regional Food Sharing Association, and in some years they've collected up to $3,000 along the parade route, and our friends at Scotiabank match dollar for dollar. So just a friendly reminder that if people want to contribute towards the food bank, which does such good work, they can drop a toonie or a loonie, and our friends in the Lions Club would also be collecting money at that time. Absolutely, absolutely. Whatever donations, as I said, that we match dollar for dollar by the folks at Scotiabank. So that's a great initiative as well.
It certainly is. And then, of course, continuing on, our tree lighting is taking place right here at City Hall, and that's taking place at 6:30. And apparently we have our own community choir doing the sing-along this year, and we're looking forward to be hot chocolate available. And Krista Tucker, who works in our Community Services Department, has been involved in this for a long time and taken the role in it, and it's usually a great event, and we get a lot of people out coming for the kickoff of the Christmas season, and we look forward to it.
Yeah, it's a nice way after the parade, isn't it? I know last year we had perfect weather, I think, and our live tree out there is getting bigger every year, so that's good news. And we know the switch is going to work. That when we hit the switch, the little children hit the switch, we're confident that the tree will light up. But it is a nice community event, and the choirs are always nice to see, the children. But in this case, we got community choirs here, so that's going to be a nice event to look forward to. So we invite all residents and people from outside our community are certainly welcome to come in and get in the Christmas spirit. So that's it for your committee there.
It is so.
Thank you, Councillor Stoyles. Our next committee is Infrastructure and Public Works, and Councillor Aker is going to lead off with that report.
Thank you, Your Worship, and I apologize to Council for being late. I sent Councillor Tessier a text saying it'll be 10 minutes late. She said, me too, but I'm assuming you made it here on time.
We figured you were following the safety message and you were driving slowly, given the fact that it was a little slippery out there. So we're glad you took your time and got here safely.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Yep. Right.
As you all know, our regulations with regards to snow clearing come in on December 1st of every year, which happens to be today. And we've presented, according to a notice of motion we had there a few weeks ago, we have amended regulations as they relate to snow clearing. You see that before you. All of the items that you see in yellow highlighter are basically changes that we've made, and it's mostly just to tighten up the wording in these regulations. But I want to bring your attention to Council to Schedule A. This is the most important part that we're trying to do, is just establish some, how should I say this, some fines that are not too overbearing, but at the same time will be viewed at least a little bit punitive, so that there's incentive. These fines basically make it an offense ticketable at, say, $75. So basically that's a very expensive parking fee for someone to pay for leaving their vehicle out. And of course the city pays for it dearly if we don't have these measures in place, right, for snow clearing purposes, because we can't get the streets done. And it costs us a lot of money, and that the plows have to come back perhaps the next day. So you see there the fines and penalties. So if you're parked on the street between 1 a.m. and 8 a.m., and I want to make a note to Council, we cleaned up some of that language. I think before in the previous regulations it said 8 p.m., which is the typo.
Okay.
So that is a new change. The fine amount now will be established at $75. Section 4, parked on the street during the storm or 12 hours thereafter. That's not a change, but the fine is also $75. Essentially, basically, we want effective tonight, nobody on the streets overnight, just in case we need to mobilize our equipment. And of course, whenever there's a storm, we appreciate everybody's cooperation, not just during the storm, but for 12 hours thereafter, to allow the city within its levels of service to get the snow clearing taken care of. Vehicle impounding will take place. You know, if there's vehicles parked in the way and we're trying to get a street cleared, I think most residents on the street will support the city in that regard, because it's for the benefit of everybody, including the safety, I might add, of everybody as well. Cost recovery will be the tow bill plus $5 and HST, of course, on a daily impound fee, right? So $5 plus HST is the daily impound fee plus whatever the towing company charges.
And our impound yard, sorry, Councillor, is up at the depot, yes?
It is.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Item 6 there, or Section 6, talks about shoveling, plowing, blowing residual snow into the city street. I never get a complaint from somebody who gets a ticket for blowing snow into the street. I get complaints from neighbors who say, how come he or she is doing that? I don't do that. I shovel my snow away from the street onto the lawn. So basically we're giving staff violation notices. We're giving the authority to issue a violation notice between $50 and $75, as well as a municipal ticket of $100. And that's really, at the time, the first two items are meant to be preventative, and the next two items basically are allowing our staff, which would, by the way, include the RNC, RCMP, municipal enforcement, any other peace officer, or anybody appointed by council. That'll be allowing the snow clearing to get on and get it done with, as opposed to just providing incentive. And then the final item, number 6 there as well, is motorized vehicle plowing residual snow into the city street. So basically, I think we've had complaints in the past, primarily from Topsa Road. You've got somebody doing a parking lot up there, and basically, if not putting the snow directly into the street, they're plowing the lot, taking it to the other side, and leaving residual snow, which ultimately creates a safety hazard, or the city has to bear the expense of basically of taking care of additional snow clearing. So that's it. I want to move that we adopt these regulations, and they will be effective immediately. Thank you.
Okay, moved by Councillor Aker, seconded by Councillor Tessier. Any comments or questions on that? I got a couple of questions there, Councillor Aker. Just, I know we're in the process of tightening this up, and you know, under number 4 there, under Schedule A, Section 4, where it says during a storm, we don't have a technical definition of a storm. So, for example, if we have 15 centimeters of snow with light winds, does that qualify as a storm? If we have 30 centimeters of snow and light winds, does that qualify as a storm? If we have 15 centimeters of snow and 100-kilometer-hour winds. So what defines a storm? Am I being picky here? But I figured if we're going to tighten up the regulations, do we need to get that picky?
I'm going to lead, and I'm sure Director Antle is going to correct everything I'm about to say, but to me, it's not so much the definition of the storm. It's whether the city requires basically the snow clearing to mobilize the fleet. And that could be sometimes, it could be very little snow but high wind and a lot of blowing snow. It could be a very heavy dump with no winds. It could also be a combination of small amount of snow with a lot of precipitation coming down. So to me, I get your drift. Pardon the pun.
No pun.
I get the drift. And it's very difficult to try to identify a storm, but I would suggest that it's all based on when we have to get our equipment out. And I really want to defer the rest of the answer to the director, basically, because he can talk more about that than I can.
I would say, first off, Councillor Aker did a fine answer, and it is in support of the same thing I would say, that it has to do with our resources that had to be deployed. And it essentially references, in many cases, it could be a light dusting of snow that we still have to get our machines out, depending on the nature of the icing conditions or whatever it may be. Sometimes it's an ice storm as opposed to a snowstorm. So the point is, if we had to mobilize our resources, we have to have machines off the road for safety reasons. And it's as simple as that.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right. Councillor Walsh, yep.
Yeah, well,
We'll
maybe
go to Councillor
just for the
Stolz.
idea, because I mean, everyone understands what we're trying to achieve, but storm is a bit misleading. So why don't we say in the event of an accumulation of snow rather than a storm, because that's
Okay.
really what we're referring to. If you have an accumulation of snow and you need to get the equipment out, it needs to be addressed. So rather than storm, which does have a connotation
That's
to it.
what I was getting at, Councillor
Yeah,
Walsh.
so
You know,
just an
accumulation of
accumulation
snow.
of
Is that a friendly amendment?
Friendly
Accumulation,
amendment to that.
accumulation of snow whereby city resources are required to remove. Because you might have a 1 centimeter accumulation of snow, so still accumulating, but I think the thing is, you're right.
Well, I would ask that, is there an enforcement issue with that?
Okay,
It's true.
Yeah.
right,
An accumulation of snow or weather-related event.
okay,
Freezing rain.
One or the other, but
Okay.
I think storm has a different
okay.
connotation.
Councillor Stoyles?
I want to say I've been here now close to 20 years, and over the years, people realise that we live in Newfoundland and we have, sometimes harsh weather. And in all the times I've been here, I dealt with one complaint on such an issue, that somebody did get a ticket. A lot of people after a snowstorm, I mean, if they're out at work and they're coming home, they got to put their car somewhere to do their driveway. And at the end of the day, we got to be realistic about how it all happens. And our staff is not going out, our enforcements are not going out giving tickets if your car is on the street. If you're there and you're going to put your car back in, or if you're going to go around the block after the plow goes by, I see it happening almost every time we have bad weather and have a storm. What the problem is, if you go in and leave your car because you don't want to have to do your driveway again, or park in front of your driveway so your driveway don't get hit with ice.
Right.
Most of the time, that's what we're talking about. People can go out after a storm, shovel the driveway, put their car out and clean up the driveway, and it's not affecting the snow as long as they're out there and they're going to be there when the plow comes by to move their car and that. I mean, years ago, I've seen our staff knock on someone's door and say, look, we want you to do it. And of course, we don't have the time to be knocking on people's doors and doing that. All this was meant to be was to let people know you can't go out and park there for hours on end when we're going to be coming by and dumping snow maybe in your next door neighbor's driveway. So at the end of the day, we can wordsmith it all we want. We want to let the public know that it's a snowstorm on. Don't leave your car in the street. If it's overnight, overnight they're not allowed to leave it there at all. But don't leave your car within 12 hours after a storm. Give us time to get out and clean it up. That's what I'm thinking it's going to be about. I don't think our staff, our municipal enforcement is going to be out giving out tickets.
You're absolutely right. The spirit of this is to allow our forces to get the roads cleared as efficiently and, quickly as possible. But we've had episodes in past years, Councillor Stoyles, where people have called in and said, the plows haven't come down my street. And when we check with our director, they're right. The plow didn't go down the street because the plow couldn't get down the street because people decide to put their cars out on the road to clear their driveways. So if they can't get down, and the plow has to go on to do the next street in the rotation there. So you're right. I mean, if I come home and my driveway is covered in, I'll park on the side of the street, snowblow. But if I see the plow coming, then I get in my car and I'll drive off my street for 5 or 10 minutes until the plow goes by. That's what we're trying to encourage people to do. But the problem is either they can't get down the street, or in some cases, because I saw it even after this most recent a snowfall just last night driving down the street, and there's this massive windrow around this car that obviously was left on the street after 8 a.m., but it definitely impeded snow clearing. So that car dug out, and now you got this windrow that ultimately is going to get driven in to the driveways, of that car. So you're right. The spirit of it is to get people off the road, to make them realize we're not out to punish anybody. We're not out looking to give out tickets willy-nilly. We want to get people off the street. So if they're going to put their car out on the road, they got to be tuned in to see if the plow is coming. If the plow is coming, just drive around the block until the plow goes by, and then you'll have no issues. So I agree with your statement there, Councillor Stolz. That's what we're trying to get at. Are there any other Director Antle?
Your Worship, if I could suggest, if you look at the Schedule A, under Section 4, we actually say they're parked on street during a storm. And we don't use the language snowstorm or ice storm. What I would like to suggest to you is that if you therefore go back to the content of the regulation under Section 4, and we change that, where it says no person shall park an unattended vehicle upon any highway within the city at any time during a snowstorm, I suggest we take out the word snow, we call it a storm, and we put in brackets snow, ice in brackets, and add the words requiring city equipment to operate.
Exactly.
So we say a storm, and we put in brackets ice, comma, snow, requiring city equipment to operate, if I could suggest.
And I would, Your Worship, if I can close debate.
Okay. Councillor Aker?
Does the amendment require a separate vote, or is
I think
it's
we
friendly?
need a motion on the amendment.
Just a suggestion?
Yep.
Can we put No, and I won't even repeat your words. I think they're spot on. I would include freezing rain, though, which is ice. Okay, fair enough, yeah. Without wordsmithing it too much, right? But I also take Councillor Stoyle's point. I mean, the whole objective here, and yours, Deputy Mayor, is to ensure that basically the streets are as clear as possible to make it safe to get around within 12 hours, I'd like to be able to sit here and say our MEO should have flexibility that at certain times of the year they're not going to issue tickets, but I don't support that. Okay. Because as soon as you start saying that we have rules and we're going to relax them for Christmas or relax them for, I'll say, Easter, as soon as you start doing that, you may as well throw the whole works out, right? So the plan is, if you're parked after 1 a.m. Overnight, whether there's a storm or not, whether, how we define the storm, no matter what, basically you will be in violation and you can be ticketed. Same thing during what we're going to call a storm event now, where city resources are required. We will define it as snow, ice, freezing rain, and the like. How's that sound?
Okay, sounds good.
And I guess that's moved, amendments included.
All right, well, can we just make sure we're clear on what the amendment we're going to make? We're going to look at, we're looking at Section 4 and change it, no person shall park an unattended vehicle upon any highway within the city at any time during a storm, brackets, snow, ice, close brackets, requiring city resources to operate for up to 12 hours thereafter. And for 12 hours thereafter. So if we change that there, then we're going to make the similar change in Schedule A to reflect the change up top. To be consistent? Just want to make sure we understand what we're... We can do that as well, so it'll be consistent between Schedule A and that. So, Councillor Aker, you're okay with that amendment? So you move it? Councillor Tessier is going to second it. All those in favour? Contrary-minded? Motion is carried on the amendment. So now do we need to do a separate motion to accept the regulations?
Yes.
Okay, so moved by Councillor Aker, seconded by Councillor Tessier. All those in favour? Contrary-minded? So that motion to adopt the regulations as presented there with the amendment as accepted. Okay? All right, so that gets us through that. Thank you, Councillor Aker. And Councillor Tessier is now up for the next item.
Just doing some project updates. Under the Building Canada Fund, we were doing some work on Pumphrey Avenue and Princeton Crescent, some upgrading of sanitary storm and water systems, some curb and gutter replacement or removal, and some sidewalk and asphalt resurfacing. We're 90% complete, and now we have come to a grinding halt until spring. See what I just did there?
That was very good.
Not bad.
I got
Not
your
bad.
drift.
Not bad. So that, of course, that work is going to get back underway again in the spring of 2016.
Okay.
Under our multi-year capital works projects, we've been doing some work on Municipal Avenue, some Phase 1 work. You can see that we've been doing some concrete curb and gutter work, some sidewalk work, some catch basin work, storm sewer outfall work, and, of course, asphalt replacement and some new granulars, and all kinds of work associated with that. We are 60% complete, and again, we have suspended work now until spring of 2016. Again, under multi-year capital works, Smallwood Drive sidewalks, they've needed some TLC. So some damaged sections have been replaced, installation and compaction of new granulars, and some installation of new concrete sidewalk altogether, with some landscaping that needed to be reinstated. We are 95% complete. Now, it should be noted that there's a change order for additional sidewalk work on Old Placentia Road. We brought that in last public council meeting, and that has to do with the gymnastics facility. So if weather allows us to do that, we'll get that done this year as well. Our multi-year capital works asset management enhancement, that of course is going to be ongoing for quite some time. It is happening right now, but we expect completion in April of 2017, and that's going to be something that's going to be a very good project to have completed, because we're going to know then what we've got in our system, the age of our infrastructure, what we can expect.
Good management tool.
Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully good preventative measures. Our multi-year capital works funding also has the gymnastics facility falling under it. If you drive by, you can see that the structure is already, the bones of the structure are already in place. Some people are very, very excited about that. The water and sanitary has been connected to the city system, and of course there's other work that's being done. Some curb work and asphalt work is going to start shortly. 25% complete, and we're looking at a completion date of May 2016. Team Gouju, the goal, of course, is to have the base asphalt down both parking lots before the asphalt plants close this winter. Can we anticipate that that's going to happen, Director Antle? I think our snow this week...
Asphalt plants are likely closing this week.
Are they? Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll do what we can do. It's approximately 35% complete. We're looking at a spring 2016 completion date, so at least in the spring it'll be done before our summer season, sports season gets up underway. And just to let everybody know, our winter maintenance partial night shift has begun, so we're going to provide updates as conditions warrant. Hopefully we won't be getting a whole lot of updates too soon anyway. But anyway, just for everybody's benefit, we are prepared.
Yeah, good stuff. Can I just ask one question of Director Antle before we move on to our next committee? I know that the asphalt plants are closing this week, and I know I asked this before, Director. You know, the temperatures were important for laying of asphalt, yes? So, for example, I witnessed in an area of the city today, it wasn't city property, I'll put that out there, where the people were actually shoveling the snow off the asphalt, and they're laying asphalt down and rolling it over. I mean, what is the threshold after which we shouldn't be laying, like on city streets? So we decided to, defer until the spring. Is it under 10 degrees, you told me before? I know it's dry conditions, and so if you can remind us of that.
Your Worship, the main thing is when we talk about surface course asphalt being laid on base course asphalt, the 2 layers of asphalt, there's a time limit on that. It's a scheduled time. It's usually around mid-November where we actually stop doing that.
Okay.
You can't have that wet. You can't have it cold temperatures. That's the bond you have to achieve. When we lay base course on top of granular stone, that's a different limit.
Okay.
As long as the ground is not frozen, sometimes you use actually moisture to achieve compaction on the granular material. So moisture is not a forbidden thing. Actually, sometimes it's important to get compaction. It can't be frozen. It can't be snow there. And that's what we're looking at, for example, at Team Gouju. We're looking at a base course asphalt. It is temperature dependent. Generally speaking, you want the temperature to be minimum somewhere around 5 to 8 degrees Celsius. Forecast this week, tomorrow and Thursday are in that order.
Right.
So we may be able to achieve that as long as the ground is not frozen there. The main concern you have this time of the year when the temperatures are that is the joins between the layers of asphalt. It's actually side-by-side joins of the asphalt.
Right.
If you don't keep the asphalt hot, it will not bond, and hence your joins fall apart.
Gotcha.
That's what we were trying to achieve.
Okay.
It can't be raining. It can be a light rain. It can't be pouring down rain when you're joining layers of asphalt. It can't be raining when you're putting a layer on top of a layer.
Right.
Side by side, you can have some light rain you can work with.
What about concrete work? Is there any temperature restrictions on concrete, like pouring of sidewalks?
Concrete is inherently generates heat. We can place concrete down between the temperatures of 5 degrees and 0, with most of the time simply applying insulation or plastic covering. You can place concrete, for example, at the gymnastics facility from 0 to -5, and you can add an insulation blanket, and that can actually achieve sufficient protection.
Okay.
Concrete, when it cures, actually generates that heat, so all you have to do is really protect it from the frost.
Gotcha.
And it's a bit more forgiving than asphalt in that sense, because asphalt needs to have that binder.
Right. As always, sir, you're a wealth of information. I appreciate that. Thank you.
It's an education session.
Yes, absolutely. All right, we're now moving on. Speaking of education, our former administrator and teacher, Councillor John Walsh, is on the floor.
Thank you
for
very
planning
much,
and development.
Deputy Mayor. Let me deal with the one outside of the
Sure.
of the hit first, if you don't mind, because I'll forget it.
Mm-hmm.
This is related to a development permit that we issued to the English School District earlier this year on the 5th of May, and it had to do with the development or the redevelopment and expansion of the property and the dwelling itself. And as part of that, we had agreed to give the English School District access to land that would be used as a second access. But I want to specify, part of the condition of the permit and part of the condition of what we're proposing tonight is that it's to be used as an exit only. What we determined that because of the development that's happening on the site there, and of course we've added as well a baseball field there as part of the minor baseball program, which is a great addition to that lot. We felt that it would be prudent and safer to have the traffic enter the parking lot from the current access point, go around the building all the way out and come up around the back of St. Peter's School, so that this would serve as an exit only. Mm-hmm. And I think secondary to that, we had proposed that it would be a right turn only as they exited the parking lot from the school. It may be a little bit of an inconvenience to some, there's no question about that, but we're more concerned about the safety of it. And I think the safety, particularly of children in the area, whether their children are there to play baseball or whether they're there to attend school, I think the children's safety trumps any concern that we'd have for taking an extra minute or 2 minutes to exit the street
Right.
on Ashford, not on Ashford Drive, but on Munden Drive. So with that, unless there are any questions, Your Worship, I'd like to propose a motion to enter into a lease agreement with the English School District for that land, and I so move.
Moved by Councillor Walsh and seconded by Councillor Ledwell. We have a question here.
Yes, well, not really a question. Back in the beginning, when this was brought here in the beginning, I did have some objections to it. I certainly didn't think when the restructuring was done at school, I didn't support it. I didn't support them adding on and building on to the school. However, as myself and Councillor Walsh had discussed it before the meeting this evening, and I looked at it and I said, you know, I didn't support it I didn't support the concept, and I think Deputy Mayor, you looked at me and said, well, what do you propose?
Right.
And my reaction to you was, well, I just didn't think they should be doing it right there. I think the school board done the restructuring, in my opinion, and a lot of people in the region. I attended several of the meetings and everything. I just didn't think it should have happened the way it did, and forced that it was done with the residents. My children all went to this school, so I'm quite familiar with this school. As you know, lived on the parking lot for years over there myself, and I just didn't think there was enough room to do that. But now that it's done, and for safety reasons, I will support it in the content that is there today. But I certainly did have some concerns with the restructuring and how they went about doing it, and the enforcement, how they went ahead and actually did it instead of talking. They did have consultants, and they did have public meetings, but they really didn't listen to the people what they wanted. And I mean, I look at St. Peter's Primary over there now, with all kindergartens over there, and every parent, especially when you got children in kindergarten, grade 1 and 2, almost every parent and grandparents is out there going in with their children. And I just thought it was going to be chaos over there. And some mornings it is, because if you drive over that way now, and when in the morning or in the afternoon or picking up the children lunchtime, I mean, they got St. Peter's Parish block, they got Salvation Army. I mean, it's crazy over there for anybody, and I don't think the whole concept was thought out. Another school should have been built somewhere to make more room. We've always been bursting at the seams in Mount Pearl schools. When St. Peter's was built right from the get-go, we were overcrowded. I know we're talking about
Yeah.
London Drive, but
Yep.
I'm saying right from the get-go, when a lot of these schools were built, they were overcrowded.
Yep.
I was there. I served on the PTAs with all of them. We were fighting with the school boards, and obviously we don't have any say. So for safety reasons,
Right.
I will support
Right,
it.
so that's a completely different issue,
I know.
what you're describing.
I know, but I'm
So council
wanting
was,
to
you
say
know,
my reasons for
right.
not supporting it
Yep.
in the beginnings. Why
I understand.
brought those.
I
Well,
understand. Fair
and
enough. Yep.
if I could, just
Sure.
to close the discussion on this, I certainly
Anybody else
appreciate.
want to
Well, I don't think it's a very
Was there any
contentious
other
issue,
questions
actually,
or
for the most
comments?
part.
No? Okay.
But no, we appreciate the comments made by Councillor Stoll. She
Yep.
did not support the original development, but it is good to have the support of the councillor, particularly as relates to this, because I think it is a safety issue. And
Right.
anything that we can do to mitigate concerns for safety for the children and the traffic, I think is a good thing. And I think part of authorizing this lease agreement with the English School District will improve the flow of traffic and the safety on and off that lot. And so I'm happy to make the motion, and I'll ask you to put it to council,
Okay,
please.
so it's been moved and seconded by Councillor Ledwell. All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary-minded? Motion is carried.
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor. The second item here is One Dunn's Lane. The land in question has been used. What this is basically is a parking lot area that serves Jasmine's Restaurant, I think Marie's Mini Mart, and there was another location. It used to be a cash store there, excuse me, on the lot. But the area in question is the area of land to the north of that, which formed part of the parking lot, but was primarily used as the pedestrian access to and from Greenwood Crescent. At times when there's overflow of traffic required, for example, at the Knights of Columbus building, occasionally you'd see people parking on that piece of land. The business, or the businesses, I should say, that have been operating out of that area for a long time have been using the north section, an unpaved area, as a bit of an additional parking lot. Their use of that land really didn't impede in any way the pedestrian traffic going to or from Greenwood Crescent. At least in our opinion, it didn't impede it in any way. So what they've done, I'm sure they'd like to purchase the land, but because of the underground infrastructure on the land, we need to retain that in the ownership of the city. So in paving the lot, they've paved the portion of the land to the north, which is city-owned land, and we'd like to now formalize a lease agreement with the property owners and formalize a motion that basically says that the committee recommends that a development permit be issued for the continuation of the use of the land for a parking lot purpose at One Dunn's Lane, subject to the use complying with the development conditions of staff and the property owner at One Dunn's Road entering into a formal lease agreement with the city. I think having the lease agreement in place is a good thing. I think it's important if they're actually using the land for parking that we enter into an agreement with them, and we still control it. It's still in our ownership under the terms and conditions of a lease agreement. So that's what we're proposing here, Deputy Mayor, and I would like to make a motion to that effect.
Okay, just for clarification there, Councillor Walsh, you mentioned Dunn's Lane and Dunn's Road. You used them interchangeably, but Dunn's
I'm
Lane...
sorry, Dunn's Road
it
it
is
is.
Dunn's Road all the
Yeah,
time, because Dunn's Lane is separate.
across the street, yeah.
That's where Aunt Helen
Yeah,
lives,
that's
so
right,
we gotta,
yeah.
I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, well, I don't want to upset you or Aunt Helen. So it's Dunn's Road.
All right, moved by Councillor Walsh, seconded by Councillor Ledwell. Any comments or questions, Council? All right, call the question. All those in favor? Contrary-minded? Motion is carried.
Thank you very much. Earlier this year, as Council is well aware, we had entered into some discussions with Green Rock Electric Vehicle Solutions to put in some charging stations in various locations throughout the city. When we had continued down the road and costed that, we had run into some, not problems, but challenges in terms of costs. The sites were ideally located, but were a little more expensive to service than we had thought they might be. The original proposal had the City Hall, the H. Neil Windsor Municipal Building, which is our city depot, the Glacier, and the Summit Center as the 4 identified locations. They are excellent sites, but in looking at the actual installation costs, we would have incurred approximately $15,526 plus HST in addition if we had gone with these 4 sites.
Right.
That represents about 58% of the entire cost of doing it, which is obviously very, very expensive. So what we are planning to do now is move the location so that we have 1 at City Hall, 1 at the Glacier, and 2 at the Reed Center. So one of the plug-in charging stations that would have been at the Neil Windsor building is now being recommended to be relocated at the side of the Reed Center, and the one in front of the Summit Center will also be used at the side of the Reed Center. So we'd have 2 there, and that would be located, Deputy Mayor, as you enter the lot into the Reed Center, just to the left of the building.
Right.
There. So we don't think that it would be any problems with doing that. We're actually doing some electrical work and work on the panels at the Reed Center, so that will make it a little bit more affordable and bring it in within budget for us to do that. I think the concept is excellent. The locations are important. We're kind of running this as a bit of a pilot project to see whether there's going to be some uptake for the electric charging stations. And if there is, I guess we'll see more of them in the future. And if there's not, I guess we'll just continue to maintain these sites.
Right.
The one downside, and it's particularly a downside in terms of here in front of the building here at the City Hall or wherever it's going to be located, but I think it will be in front of the building here at Centennial Square, is that we do have to reserve a parking area for it. You can't have the charging station there and not have a designated site.
Right.
So in addition to the blue zones, which are extremely important and have to be dedicated, we also now will have a green zone spot for a charging station as well. But we hope to see some uptake, and having them provided for public spaces like this will improve both the visibility and the uptake usage of the charging stations, and hopefully they'll work. So to that end, I'd make a motion to amend our original locations for the approval of that of those 4 locations, and I so move.
Moved by Councillor Walsh and seconded by Councillor Ledwell. Councillor Aker, you had the question first. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I support the concept, and I just want to ask a question that's related, but so we're going to reserve these parking spaces. So take the one here at City Hall where parking is very, very cramped. How do we know in the long run that people are actually using the charging stations? You know what I'm saying? So that, you know, later on we can justify the continued use of the station or the location there. How do we know? Is there any way we can hook up the electrical panel to tell us that there's
Like
a charge
a
being
meter
drawn?
on it, for example, to sort of track it?
We could have that there for 10 years and not know if it's being used once.
Right.
I'd like to know if is there some way. Maybe it's not practical to do so. That's my question.
Director Yevchek seems to have
Okay.
something to lead.
Yep. Director Yevchek?
Yeah, Your Worship, I recall in part of the discussion that there is a way that you can monitor it, so you do know, but would have to refer back to Green Rock to confirm that.
Okay.
But I understand that there might be a way in which you can tell, you know, the usage and so on, right?
Okay.
I think for most of us, Councillor Aiken, I think it's a very reasonable question. I think for most of it is just, you know, sheer visibility. I mean, we'll know if somebody's parking in the green area, and if they're parking there and they're not plugged in, they shouldn't be parking there. And the same will be true of the other locations. And we're only talking 4. We have staff during hours of operation at the Reed Center, so we'll know whether it's being utilized there. I guess the one thing we don't want is someone to come from a residential area, park at the Reed Center, plug in overnight, and not use our power, not theirs, and charge their vehicles. But I think Director Yevchek has indicated there is a way to determine the outage or the usage in terms of power. But I guess we'll also be able to see whether they're being utilized for sure in a practical
Sorry,
way.
Councillor Walsh. Councillor Stoll has had a question or comment, so I
well,
should have let her speak first before you closed.
I haven't closed debate, but I did stand up.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah.
Well, my question was similar. I was wondering how many cars, if we knew how many cars were actually sold and being used here in the area or in the region, and if, you know, the parking lot was, you know, the the spots would be used, and that was basically my concern as well.
Okay.
Because I'm sure they know how many vehicles are sold here in the region. I think is great. I certainly support the concept, and I think is great. I think eventually a lot of people will be buying and plugging in more, but I too was concerned about the design parking spot,
Sure.
designated parking spot, and if it was going to be used.
Okay.
Thank
Councillor
you.
Tessier? Councillor Tessier?
Just
You're
very,
just
very quick
antsy to
point.
close
Very
debate
quick-
there, aren't you, Councillor Wall?
Very-
Wait
very
until you're
excited.
called on.
Got a long list.
Yeah, sorry. Just a very quick point. Have we considered letting the car dealerships know, the car dealerships that actually sell electric cars, have we considered letting them know that we actually will have the charging stations up and running and
They've
where they
asked.
will be?
They've
But like
asked.
we can provide that information to them.
Right, good promotion as well. I also got a question before Councillor Walsh jumps up
No, I'm
again.
standing up, that's it.
They're not supposed to park in the green zone. Do we need now to change our regulations accordingly, that it's a ticketable offence? Okay, we'll have to change our regulations as well, so, and Councillor Ledwell wants to go with this?
Everybody else has spoken, Your Worship, so I figure I may as well speak as well.
Plug in.
Might as well plug in into this
your plug
electric
in, yeah.
discussion. Yeah, I mean, this is a great project. I think I'm very happy to second the motion. I'm sure, to Councillor Aker's question, I'm sure with the technology that they have with Green Rock and whatever other companies do these electrical charging stations, I'm sure there's technology that exists to measure usage and length of time that a car is plugged in or what have you. I'm sure that if it doesn't exist now, it will exist very soon.
Right.
And this is something that I'm very excited to see the city doing, because we always like to talk about how we look at things through a green lens, and we do with the heating and cooling system in our new facilities up at the Progate complex and any number of other things that we do here at the city. We're always geared towards the environment, and this is just something else that we're doing to help the environment, and this is the way of the future. I think this is the way things are going, so we should certainly get in and try it out.
Well, part of our strategic plan, our main thrust was constant improvement of services and looking for new initiatives. So, Councillor Walsh, would you like to get up now and close debate? No, he's sucking now.
I'm only serious. Yeah, thank you very much. I think what we're going to see here, Your Worship, is a little bit of a catch-22. I think once you see that there are places where you can actually charge the vehicles, people might be more inclined to purchase the vehicles.
Right.
But right now, if you take your vehicle to a function, a city function, for example, or to a meeting here at City Hall or up at the Summit Center or Reed Center, and you have no place to plug in, maybe that would be a bit of an inhibitor to purchasing an electrical vehicle. So I think it'll really go both ways. It's it's an important initiative to encourage green usage, but it's at the same time we need to try to do it as cost effectively as we can, and that's what this amended motion is designed to do.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. I thought you were making a little pun when you said both ways. It can go both ways. We were thinking AC/DC or... Sorry.
You're thinking too much.
Sorry, thinking too much. Yeah. All right. The question's been called. Motion, and we had it seconded. Call the question. All those in favour?
Aye.
Contrary-minded?
There's nobody out there who wants to talk about this.
Moved. All right. All right. Our next one. Okay.
Okay, Parkdale Ridge Condominium Board, the correspondence follow-up from the meeting. We did review a letter that was dated the 30th of October from Parkdale Ridge Condominium Board, which was a follow-up to a meeting that we had held with them on the 23rd of October. As council is well aware, we had come to an understanding with the condominium board and with the developer that privacy fencing requirement, which had been a condition of the development, a condition 9 in fact, and it's there written for council to review, and I'm sure you've reviewed that already. Since this really only impacts the people who live within the development, and these people had submitted a request to us to waive the fencing requirement, we thought that it would be reasonable and, in fact, even prudent to waive the fencing requirement. So really all we're doing here now is formalizing that. So the Planning and Development Committee recommends that condition 9 of the development permit, DP 07-053, be deleted, and that is referring to the requirement of a privacy fence, and I so move.
Moved. Seconded by Councillor Ledwell. Comments? Council? No? All right, call the question. All those in favour? Contrary-minded? Motion is carried.
Thank you very much. Corner lot landscaping amendment. We are proposing an amendment to the wording of the text of the landscaping requirement that achieves the following. Where the landscaping requirements of a lot adjacent to one of the city's snow storage areas is on a corner lot, and we have many of these, the Committee of the Whole was of the view that the 50% of the landscaping requirement for a single dwelling family home should include the snow storage buffer between the side yard of the home and the street in the maximum landscaping calculations. Prior to this, the home itself had to have the 50% requirement as part of the regulations, and you could not include any of the public land or the snow storage buffer zone. And in some cases that makes sense, and in some other cases it perhaps didn't make a lot of sense. So what we're proposing now is to change that to include the 50%, to include the lot adjacent to the snow storage area. So we did issue a notice of motion on the 3rd of November in the public council meeting. We did put a public notice in the Telegram on November 7th, advertising a briefing session which was scheduled to be held on the 24th of November, and we also posted that to the city's website. We didn't have any submissions or commentary which suggested to us that it was very much a non-issue for the public, and so we're recommending that we proceed with this change to the amendment, and the Planning and Development Committee recommends that the Mount Pearl Development Regulations 2010 Amendment number 49 be adopted, which allows us to consider the snow buffer zone as part of the 50% requirement, and I so move.
Moved by Councillor Walsh, seconded by Councillor Ledwell. Anyone wish to speak to this, Council? No? Let's call the question then. All those in favour?
Aye.
Contraminded? Motion is carried.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. On the 5th of March, earlier this year, the city received an application from Immersat Solutions to acquire some city-owned land on Bruce Street, which would have given them a sufficient enough space to expand their parking lot. We approved that at the time, and the applicant is now looking to consolidate the parcel of land with the company's existing land at 34 Glencoe Drive, and is also proposing to proceed with the parking lot expansion, which was the reason they wanted to purchase the land in the first place. This meets all of our regulations in terms of the regional plan, our Mount Pearl municipal plan, and our Mount Pearl development regulations. We did refer this to a number of agencies that we normally refer our development applications to, and we don't see any issues at all. In fact, when we entered into the original agreement in March, we knew that this agreement for the expansion of the parking lot would be associated with it. So with that in mind, the Planning and Development Committee recommends that the proposed consolidation of property and parking lot expansion at 34 Glencoe Drive be approved, and that a development permit be issued subject to meeting the conditions of Newfoundland Power, Engineering Services Division of the City of Mount Pearl, Planning and Inspection Services Division, and our Finance Department, and I so move.
Second.
Moved, seconded by Councillor Ledwell. Comments? None? Call the question. All those in favour? Contraminded? Motion is carried.
Thank you. I'll move on. The application for a home-based business for 47 Ashford Drive. The proponent in this particular case wanted to use an area in the existing dwelling as a home office associated with vehicle sales. That part of the home-based business operation would not have presented a problem. But in addition to that, the proponent was proposing to have members of the public view a car, a vehicle, a truck on the site. And that was not in accordance with either the spirit and intent of our home-based business regulations, or was not compliant with some of the details associated with our regulations either. So I just want to review the areas in which it was not compliant. So everyone understands that the office part of it would not have presented any difficulty, I don't think. But having a car on site in a residential neighborhood, particularly in an area right across from a busy school area on Ashford Drive, where there's a church and a school right almost directly across the street, would really present problems. And it would probably present problems in any residential area if people were to come by for viewing vehicles. So the Planning and Development Committee recommends to Council that the application to occupy a portion of the existing dwelling and lot at 47 Ashford Drive for a vehicle sales business be refused for the following reasons. Number one, the proposal is not in accordance with Residential Policy 6.21, subsection 4A of the Mount Pearl Municipal Plan. That's typical bureaucracy at work. The automobile dealership use that is not permitted in the RMD zone of the Mount Pearl Development Regulations. It does not comply with that. And the proposal is not in accordance with our regulations of the development of the Mount Pearl Development Regulations, and the section is noted there as well. The bottom line, Your Worship and members of Council, is that this is just not a good fit for that kind of a business. So we're proposing that this be refused on the basis of that, and I so move.
Moved, seconded by Councillor Ledwell. Comments? Call the question. All those in favor? Contraminded? Motion carried.
Thank you very much. This next item, Your Worship, is for the information of Council only. I think many members of Council have already viewed this. This was related to the Mount Pearl Paradise Chamber of Commerce Best in Business Awards, which was held on Friday, November 20th. Unfortunately, I think both you and I were out of the province at the time, but I understand it was a very, very successful night. A lot of great businesses highlighted. I want to name some of the Mount Pearl businesses that were winners and highlighted that night. These would be winners and honorable mention. Best in Business was Mex Salon. Community Spirit Award for the City of Mount Pearl was Mount Pearl Dental Elliott Group, and I think all of us who live here know that they do a tremendous, not only tremendous business, but a tremendous job in marketing their business and branding their business in a completely different way over the last number of years. Community Spirit Award for the Town of Paradise was Body Quest. The Employee Equity Award went to Coffee Matters, and honorable mention was to Coleman's Food Center. And these two groups really do an outstanding job in accommodating young people with disabilities, and they're to be commended for that. So indeed. I think the Employee Equity Award, of all the awards that are there, I think this is an opportunity to really highlight the outstanding work that these people do in taking these young people in, offering them the training that they need and require. And a lot of them, by the way, are working in sales and public service, and right. They're so cordial. Right. I mean, whether it's Coffee Matters or Coleman's, these two are among many, but they really are outstanding, and hats off to them for the work that they continue to do. Graphic Design, which I think was a new award, went to the Graphics Art and Sign Shop. Innovation Award was Brenker and Mount Pearl, and also HM to Shred Guard. Honorable mention, that is. Outstanding 25 business, 25 employees or less. Reefer Repair in Mount Pearl, and honorable mention to Windsor Coombs, which is a chartered accountant firm in Mount Pearl as well. And the outstanding business with 25 employees or more went to Steel Fab Industries, and honorable mention to Akita Equipment and Auto Transport. There's other information appended there for the information to the public and council, but in short, it was a tremendous night. Very, very successful, well attended, great. And I think a great opportunity to highlight some of the fabulous businesses that go on in both Mount Pearl and Paradise, and are supported by the Mount Pearl Paradise Chamber of Commerce.
Yeah, good stuff, indeed. Okay.
The next item, Your Worship, is an application from Cardinal Homes for properties, development of properties on 16, 18, and 20 Hammerjane Drive, which really required a subdivision of some of the lots to be able to accommodate this. I just want to highlight very briefly a little bit of the development history, because these homes or these lots or this area would have been part of the very first phase of the development in the area. But the subject area did not form part of the Pearlview Phase 1 Subdivision Development Agreement. Therefore, a separate subdivision development permit is required to be issued for the subdivision and development of these particular lots. These are fairly straightforward in terms of our regional plan, our municipal plan, and our development regulations. We did do the normal process of referral to Newfoundland Power, Engineering Services, our finance division, etc. and all of the work that is normally done, which is normally done very thoroughly by our planning department, has been done. So with that, we'd like to make the recommendation, excuse me, that the Planning and Development Department has reviewed the application submitted on November 24th to subdivide the parcel of land at 16 to number 20 Hemmerjane Drive to create 3 residential lots, and recommends that a subdivision development permit be issued subject to the following conditions: Newfoundland Power's conditions, Engineering Services review and conditions, the Finance Division's conditions, Mapping Services Divisions and the conditions that would apply to it, Planning Services Division, and development meeting with the Mount Pearl Development Regulations 2010. And I so move.
Moved, seconded by Councillor Ledwell. Any comments? Call the question. All those in favor? Contrary-minded? Motion is carried.
Thank you. Last couple of items, Your Worship, is the development permit list. We just have 3 items on the list for this period of November 16th to the 27th, and I'd like to move those for the approval of council.
Moved, seconded. Comments? Call the question. All those in favor? Contrary-minded? Motion carried.
And building construction for this period, again, 16th to the 27th of November. Residential, we have 390, is that six? $396,800. And on the commercial, we have $6,700 for the period, and I so move.
Moved. Commercial is at 6,700 or 5,700? Okay, 5,700. Moved, seconded. All those in favor?
It's all a big mash to me, even with my glasses on. Yeah, it's hard to see.
Contrary-minded?
Yeah, it is.
Motion
5.
is carried.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Your Worship. That's it for me.
That was a long report, and you were so anxious to stand up earlier in the meeting.
I was.
But you did a good job, and
you very much.
thank you for that, Councillor Walsh.
Glad to get over it.
Okay, folks, that brings us to the end of our committee report. So now we're on to new business, and we'll start out with Councillor Stoyles.
Thank you. A couple of items. First of all, as we all know, we had elections yesterday, and we have a new government in power, and wanted to say congratulations to all the people who won, and also to all the people who put their names forward, because as we all know, as politicians, it's very difficult to put your name, and normally 90%, well, not 90% of the time, 2/3 of everybody to put their name forward with 3 parties here in the province. Most people lose, so as more people lose actually than actually wins. So hats off to everybody, and especially here in our region, to Pauline and Steve Kent, who are in our district here in the city of Mount Pearl. Congratulations to both of them. And also I wanted to mention, Your Worship, the Red Cross, who occupies a building here on Topsail Road. They had the Humanitarian Awards, which they do every year, and I attended it. Actually, it was 2 weeks ago tonight. I left council after the public meeting and attended the awards, and the Humanitarian Award went to Jim Burton, and the Young Entrepreneur Award, the Humanitarian Award, went to Micah Van Nickel. I'm not sure how to pronounce her name. Nickerk. Anyway, she was involved, or has been involved, with the Cancer Society after her mom died a number of years ago. And of course, Jim Burton is well known in the community, involved with Hope here and his work with the Red Cross and a lot of other organizations and everything. And I was certainly delighted to attend that event. And it's an event, they have close to 500 people attend the award. I've gone at a past number of years, and I must say it's certainly a lovely event to go to. And I want to pass on my sympathies for 2 different families today. One I'm going to mention first was Bob Foster just passed away, and Barb, his wife, they moved away about 10 years ago, and Bob is Brenda Butt's brother-in-law, and Bob passed away up in Star City, and I want to pass along my sympathies to the Foster and Butt family. And the other person is, we all know her, or most of us in the city of Mount Pearl know her as Phyllis Hogarth, or Phyllis Toop, as she had changed her name back a few years ago. Phyllis was a great community leader here in the city. When we talk about great volunteers and great community leaders here in the city of Mount Pearl. Well, from the time I remember being involved in volunteerism in Mount Pearl, Phyllis Toop was one of those people. A Girl Guide leader, a Brownie leader, in charge of many guiding activities. I remember her very well as when I started a Brownie group at Mary Queen of the World when my children were 5, so it's 35 plus years ago, 35 years ago, and I was taking my troop to Brownie camp. Phyllis was the one who came forward, and I think it was 6 years in a row. She spent a week with me going to Brownie camp every year. So I know Phyllis, got to know her quite well during them years. And then as I was involved in the city, she was heavily involved in the city. She was our first Frosty. For 22 years, actually for the first 15 years, she was the only one wore the suit. And the suit was made specifically for Phyllis. And I remember her many times around the Frosty Festival, either putting the hat on her or helping take it off. She was a tremendous volunteer, as was her mom, Jessie, who was heavily involved in guiding. Her ex-husband worked with the city. Lauren worked in our depot, and I know him quite well as well. Her son, who now lives in England, of course, I was at the funeral and at the service for her, and it was so sad when you look at somebody who put so much time into the city. And I mean, Phyllis was back 30 years ago, 35 years ago. Everybody knew in the city who Phyllis Hogarth was because she was at everything and she was there. She was just a fixture in the city. And of course, she was struck with MS a number of years ago and hadn't been able to be out doing what she would have liked to do in the community. She was still only a young woman, but now that since she passed away, she's, like I said, she put so much into the community. And when we talk about naming buildings after people and doing stuff, and I know we've done it the past number of weeks, and we're going to be doing it again because we're looking at renaming the Kenmare Park Centre. But let me tell you, nobody deserves anything to have their name on something any more than Phyllis Hogarth too, because she put an awful lot into this community. I remember her well, and she will be sadly missed.
Okay, thank you.
That's it for me.
All right, thank you. Councillor Walsh?
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor. I just wanted to acknowledge as well, we've in Mount Pearl have been probably spoiled a little bit with such incredibly strong representation in the House of Assembly. That representation continued last night. The winds of change were obvious last night right from the beginning. So I just want to congratulate, as Councillor Stoll said, all of the people who put their names forward for candidacy, first of all, but particularly Dwight Ball, the leader of the Liberal Party and the Premier designate for Newfoundland and Labrador. I wish him well and wish him all of the success in the world as a Premier, and certainly the commitment of this Council. Both Council and staff, I'm sure, will look forward to working with his government over the next months and years ahead. And we hope to see some great things taking place in Newfoundland and Labrador once again. I do want to congratulate Paul Lane, who was elected last night, and Steve Kent, who was elected. And I think we should also acknowledge that our own mayor, whose name was on the ballot, was not successful last night, but I guess for us, it was probably a little bit of a bittersweet thing. We couldn't lose either way. He's a very capable and experienced man who offers a lot of insight into municipal issues. I'm sure he would have been very happy to be able to bring that experience and that knowledge to the provincial scene, but it didn't work out last night for him. The win for us, of course, is that he returns to the city as the mayor to continue out his term of office for the next couple of years. So congratulations to all of the winners, to all of the people who put their name forward, and to our mayor as well, who ran an excellent campaign, even though he was not successful. And we look forward to welcoming him back to the chambers and to our council meetings beginning, I think, this week, later this week. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Councillor Tessier?
Yeah, just a couple of quick things. Of course, I can't let the opportunity go by without actually taking advantage of offering my congratulations as well to the people who were successful last night. Paul Lane, we've worked with Paul now in his position as MHA for 4 years, and we'll look forward to doing it again for another 4. And Steve, of course, Steve has been an MHA for, I think, 8. Am I right? 8, and of course, Deputy Premier for the last few. So again, we have very strong working relationships with both. We're looking forward to continuing that. I wish, of course, Premier-elect Ball all the very best in his new position. We'll see him, I'm sure, around Mount Pearl. And I said it on a Facebook post. It takes a lot of courage to put your name on a ballot. Yeah. An awful lot of courage, especially this day and age of social media and commentary and criticism. And oh boy, I tell you, sometimes it goes beyond what I believe is constructive. But it takes an awful lot of courage to do that. So anybody who put their name on a ballot, I think, deserves to be acknowledged for having the bravery, the courage to do that. Mm-hmm. So I just want to commend everybody for participating in this process. 55% voter turnout. Not particularly excited about that, especially given what's happening in the world that we live in. We have the freedom and the ability to go and mark our ballots so easily, and I just wish that more people would do it, but that's okay. Another time. We brought in our snow clearing regulations, a few changes. Winter season is upon us. I want to encourage everybody to please be mindful of the road conditions. Take your time, slow down. If you don't have your snow tires on, please get them on. And also, we're heading into the Christmas season, and already Christmas parties have started. We have 2 great taxi cab companies here in Mount Pearl. I encourage everybody to take advantage of them if they feel that they want to participate in some Christmas cheer. And if they don't, then please make sure that those who do get home safe and sound.
You're here.
That's
All
it.
right, thank you, ma'am. Councillor Aker?
Yeah, I too would like to join your worship with my colleagues in basically commending all of those who ran, whether they won a race last night or whether they lost, and they're not really losers. It takes a lot of guts and a lot of courage to offer your name in today's environment. But kudos go out to our Mayor, Randy, for running, and like Councillor Walsh said, he ran a very clean campaign. Congratulations to both Steve Kent as well as Paul Lane. They've represented us well in the past, and we look forward to a good working, constructive relationship. Sometimes it's not so bad, to have one government MHA for your city and one that's in opposition. That may really work for our benefit. Mm-hmm. I also want to wish the Ball government the best of luck. We have some very serious fiscal challenges in the province, and I know there's a lot of celebrating last night, but I'm sure they were at work this morning rolling up their sleeves. They have some great challenges to face. And I want to mention one last thing. One of our MHAs the last 4 years was Premier Paul Davis. Right. He served Mount Pearl. In fact, he was the MHA that represented the part of Powers Pond that I lived in. And even though Paul, the way they realigned the districts now, Mount Pearl will only have 2, I think we should also congratulate him. And I'm kind of hopeful, too, that there's a good balance in the House of Assembly, even though the opposition is kind of smallish. There's some pretty good characters there, I think, that'll be strong and effective. Mm-hmm. So, again, congratulations to everybody who ran. And the last thing I wanted to talk about was the Mount Pearl Minor Hockey Food Drive this past Saturday. 25,000 items, $2,500 in cash, I think, collected. Mm-hmm. 25 hockey teams. There's a real element here of 2-5, don't you get? Started off at Mount Pearl Senior High. I believe Deputy Mayor was there, and I know others I can't name, but people popped up throughout the day. All of that food that was collected ended up in the food banks here in Mount Pearl. I know St. Vincent de Paul is more than pleased and very, very grateful for all the food that was raised. And congratulations to the executive, the volunteers, Mount Pearl Senior High, Tanya Edney, right?
Edney,
thank you.
Yep.
And many of the students volunteered to help out, so it was a real team effort. And congratulations to everybody. I think that was the 4th annual.
Fourth annual.
Job well done.
They
Thank
were
you.
also at the supermarkets accepting food and cash, which was excellent.
Thank you, Councillor Aker. Councillor Ledwell, last but certainly not least, my friend.
Thank you, Your Worship. I guess everything has pretty well been said.
Yeah.
I do want to join with Councillor Stoyles in extending condolences to the family of Phyllis Toop. As she said, a long-time volunteer in the city, and certainly a life worth celebrating because she brought so much life to Frosty in our Frosty festivals for so many years. So certainly my condolences go out to the Toop family. The other things, of course, I did want to mention the food drive, just a fantastic effort on behalf of all of those young boys and girls in the Mount Pearl Minor Hockey Association, and kudos to all those who organized it. And of course, I would be remiss if I too did not extend congratulations and thank everybody who put their name on a ballot for the provincial election that was held yesterday. I do want to congratulate Steve and Paul. Certainly look forward to working with them and continuing our strong relationship that we've had developed with them. And I want to congratulate everybody who ran, but certainly I'd be remiss if I didn't congratulate Randy on a wonderful campaign, very well run. He certainly worked hard, and certainly looking forward to continuing our strong working relationship here at the council table.
Thank you, Councillor Ledwell. You guys have touched on many of the items that I was going to raise. Again, I too want to just echo the fact that anybody who puts their name forth deserves credit. As we all know, campaigns are long, tiresome, and at the end of it, you're spent, aren't you? You've put everything on the table. You give everything you got, and you're waiting for the results to come in. So, but as Councillor Walsh said, it was sort of a win-win here. When people were speaking about Mount Pearl North, either way, whoever won in terms of between the Liberals or the PC, we would have a strong representation. So Steve Kent has certainly been a great voice for Mount Pearl over his 18 years in political life, and of course Randy has been a stable voice and an abundance of wisdom here on City Council. So either way, the people in Mount Pearl North are still very well off when you compare to others. I did want to mention the food bank as well. Councillor Aker and Ledwell, they spoke to that. 4 years ago, they collected about 6,000 food items. Then in year 2, they got to 9,000 food items. Last year, they got to 15,000 food items. This year, their goal was 25,000 food items, and they actually reached 27,000 food items. They had over 400 youth involved with it. I don't know how many adults. There must have been close to 100 adults that came out because there was drivers and organizers and stuff like that. I know I did receive some emails from people that were anxious to donate, but people didn't make it to their streets. But the volume of food was so large that, of course, once the vehicles were filled, they had to drive back to the food banks, offload, and then get back. So we probably needed another 500 volunteers to cover the entire city. We would have needed another 500 to cover all of the food that was indeed donated. So it's a very well-oiled machine right now. Dave Edney, the former president of Mount Pearl Minor Hockey, and his wife Tanya Edney took this on 4 years ago. It was, I think, their brainchild, and of course Mount Pearl Minor Hockey jumped on board of it. So hats off to when you can get the Minor Hockey Association with all those volunteers, and then students came out to cook the food, at the school because they had a little lunch afterwards. It was very heartwarming to see that, and so my hat goes off to all those people involved. I had the opportunity on Sunday to head to St. Peter's Sunday evening to the Advent Festival of Lessons and Carols. It was the first of its kind, so they invited me to read one of the passages there. And the 3 choirs that were there, the youth choir, I think the Saturday choir, and then the Sunday choir, and it was absolutely beautiful. What a lovely, lovely event. The song was very uplifting, the readings were very, very inspirational. And so it was very, very nice. So I was very, very happy that I actually got the invite and attended. But while I was there, Con Milmore with the food bank at St. Peter's, he said, "Jim, I want you to drop down now and have a look." So we went into the food bank, and she's chock full, floor to ceiling. It is absolutely, and they are absolutely overwhelmed by the generosity of the people of Mount Pearl. Of course, we're not surprised by that because we know it. They were very touched by the youth that gave up their Saturday morning to do that. So asking them, they figure this will last until about February, till about early February. So it'll get them over the Christmas hump. They're now in the process of putting together, I think, 300 Christmas hampers. And they said in addition to all the food items that they collect, they still spend about $70,000 a year on purchasing things. So they purchase like fresh milk, they purchase peanut butter, they purchase turkeys at Christmas, they purchase tin milk, carnation milk that Councillor Walsh is amazed at that I still use in my tea. But there's a lot of items, and Director Antle as well. There's a lot of items, but one thing that I said I would mention publicly here today because people are generous in giving stuff. But a lot of the items are actually, they're tossed, they're discarded because they've expired. And mention this to a lot of people in Mount Pearl, you know, a lot, probably 24 people. I was at a social the other night when I brought this up. People said, I never even thought to think of that. So, you know, they go in and take a can of something out of their cupboards, but if it's expired, they can't use it. So it's discarded. Now, the majority of them wasn't, but just to let people know that if you're going to donate, and some of the things that, and I asked them, I said, so if you could ask for something that doesn't get donated, but, you know, you see useful, one is like flaked ham and flaked turkey and tuna and stuff like that, because they also get bread donated from Costco, so they'll go down, like, it's not old bread, but the day it expires, Costco gives them all the bread, so they collect it and put it in the freezer. So they like to make sandwiches. Fruit, canned fruit is something that they don't get a lot of, so sometimes they have to buy that. And also, which I found intriguing, they don't get a lot of cookies, like packages of cookies, like chocolate chip cookies and Oreos and stuff like that. So the little children, they like that little treat. And you all know that I love a stopper, so I found it interesting that they don't get a lot of cookies there. So, but you know what? It was heartwarming to see these people, and they were beaming with pride in the food bank. They put in so much time, and they don't get a cent. Mary Queen is another one. I just happened to visit St. Peter's, and I know Bob down at Mary Queen of the World, and the same thing. The effort down there. So, I mean, going into the Christmas season, I mean, it's heartwarming to see what people are willing to do, you know, for those in need. So it was a great Advent festival, and it was also nice to see the food banks. I just want to toss in another couple of things before we go, because I know it's gone on long. But December the 10th to the 13th, Mount Pearl Senior High is putting off the You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown musical at the LSPU Hall. And I know O'Donnell does a musical, I think, I don't think they're doing one this year. They're sort of doing it every other year. Or they're doing another one this year as well? Okay. So we know on our Focus on Youth Week, the talent that is in this school. So the students at Senior High are certainly putting their all into that. So I just wanted to throw it out to the public and to council, December 10th to the 13th at the LSPU Hall. You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown. It promises to be a great show. And that's all that I wanted to bring up here. So thank you, Council. Can I get a motion to adjourn? Moved by Councillor Aker. We are adjourned. Thank you.